There are three ways of looking at the reality of the universe. I learned this from Toshihiko Izutsu, my professor of comparative religion back in Tehran in the old days. And he said that there were three ways of viewing the reality of the universe. One, everything is real. This is what he called naive realism. It's a position which I've always felt kind of attracted to. I would say that shamanism is a naive realist tradition. It believes that everything is real, including the spirits, that the material world is just as real as the spiritual world, that everything is real. Then the second position would be that nothing is real, that the universe is not real, but that there's a higher reality behind it. This position is actually fairly rare, but it is taken up by various philosophical and Gnostic dualist systems that says, for example, that the world is not real, but that there's a transcendent reality that lies behind it and which completely outshines it, or that the created world is evil and that the reality behind it is the only good, and so forth and so on. And then the third position is that the universe is both real and unreal simultaneously. And this, in fact, is the position of Vedanta and Sufism. Vedanta and Sufism do not say that the world is unreal. They say that it is both real and unreal at the same time. For example, Ibn Arabi, who is certainly a believer in the transcendent divinity of and oneness of God, also says that there's no way to know God except through the 70,000 veils of light and darkness, which is the material world. The material world itself is a support for, a proof of. The Quran says these are proofs for people of discernment. They're waymarks on the horizon. The material world is a series of proof texts, as it were, or embodiments of the metaphysical oneness. So the world is unreal in relation to the total unity and oneness of God, but it's completely real in relation to the experience of the divine, the consciousness of the divine in the world. So that's basically it. And you could say that that is also the position of what you might call your advanced paganism, that sees that everything has a God in it, but at the same time the universe is one thing. So that would be the Vedanta position. And Sufism, you could say, is monotheist, but also pantheistic in this respect, that it sees that there is divinity in everything, that everything is the divine, but it also reserves the transcendent unity above that, so to speak. So this is the position. This is the question they wanted me to address. The work that I'm doing here is premised on the idea that the world of the witches is just as real in its way as the material world that I'm dealing with as an artist, the material things, the honey, the bones, the dirt, and so forth, that I'll be dealing with in an artistic way. These are, in fact, imbued with the divine for me. Other people may experience them differently, but this is what I'm trying to say this is one of many things that I'm trying to say with my art. This is part of a whole series of what I call vanishing artworks, where the art comes into being. The art has to disappear in order to have existed. In this case, sometimes I throw things into water, sometimes I bury things, sometimes I leave something to rot, like flowers or other organic substances, and in this case I'm going to be burying something. So it's all about vanishing from the material world and yet leaving traces in the imagination. Our Halloween event is in honor of Dr. Jacob Brink and his entire family, all of whom were witch doctors. And he lived in the 19th century, but his grandson came after him, was also a witch doctor, and the last member of the family who had the power died in 1938. What is the power? The power was, first of all, healing power, but more special than that, he knew how to deal with witches. If your cattle had somebody put a spell on your cattle so they weren't giving milk, or some put a curse on you, or for any reason you thought that witches were messing up your life, you would send for Dr. Brink. in those days, the witches were mostly up here in Woodstock. Surprise, surprise, right? This was long before there were artists. There were witches in Woodstock. And one of them was named Becky DeMilt. And she was supposed to have been very beautiful. She had dark hair and black eyes and went around dressed in black all the time. And she was perfect, except she had a withered leg. And she rode on a black stallion wherever she went. So she was really quite a dramatic witch. And I have some pictures of sexy witches inside in memory of her. And she and Dr. Brink were always struggling with each other. As far as I know, Dr. Brink never killed anybody with his anti-witch magic. He had a bullwhip, and he would come and snap the whip in the direction of the witch or in her face if he could do it, and that would dispel her magic. Most of the witches were female, of course. But, you know, witch doctor, witch, the church didn't see any difference at all. The church was convinced that Dr. Brink was just as bad as the witches he was fighting. And they assumed that if you paid him enough, he would do black magic. I don't believe that Dr. Brink ever did black magic, but other hex doctors certainly did. So it's kind of hard to tell the witches from the witch doctors. And I would say that the reason why I'm doing this act for Dr. Brink, calling it Dr. Brink versus the Woodstock witches, but really I believe that it's time for the witches and the witch doctors to unite against the anti-spiritual, disenchanted, boring, stupid, mechanistic modern world. Both of their kinds of magic are necessary now. So what I'm doing here today in burying this toad skeleton and putting in various things with it, which I will explain to you, is really I'm bringing the witches and the witch doctors together in a kind of, I would almost say, mystical marriage. Now, when we went to the place where I believe Becky DeMilt's cabin was, we found that this shovel just waiting for us there. So that's, I call this the Becky DeMilt Memorial Shovel. And I'm going to use it to fill up the hole. I think it looks like Joseph Beuys designed it. It's perfect. There's three.
You should take them down to the Threads district, man. And like all the Kid Rock and them guys will be doing it in no time. Ooh. Ooh.
Is everybody getting these different smells? Ooh, here's the green one. So, I have a toad, which I have covered in honey, and I'm going to bury that along with a bag of magical substances, including a crystal, magnetite, which is lodestone, iron filings, amber, and a magic herb called John the Conqueror, and a couple of other things. Oh yes, and most important, dirt from the grave of Dr. Brink. So we call this gris-gris in hoodoo. In hoodoo circles, that's known as gris-gris. And this little pouch that I've made, which I'll show you in a minute, is called a paquet Congo in hoodoo. You could think of it as a medicine pouch. And the reason for all of those things is to set up a kind of mystical electromagnetism. I call it organic electromagnetism. Amber, crystal, lodestone, iron filings. It's all to spread the mystical influence of the toad skeleton in honey, which kind of, to me, symbolizes Dr. Brink and the witches. This is the Paquette Congo, which I was describing before, that has the magic electromagnetism in it, and the graveyard dirt from Dr. Brink's grave, the gris-gris, as we call it. That goes there. Now, once I've buried it loosely, I'm going to put water from the stream where Becky DeMilt used to live, where the witch used to live. We went and got water from the stream. And at the same time, we found this beautiful, beautiful shovel, which, as I say, looks like it was designed by Joseph Beuys. And I'm going to use this special witch shovel to bury the toad. And then we're going to put water over the dirt. It's another marriage symbol, I guess you could say. Bismillah. Here, look, there's enough dirt here. All right. That's my exercise for the day. All right. Now, this is water. Now, when you collect magic water from a stream, according to Dr. Brink, you collect it in the direction of the stream, not against it, with the stream. That's very important to get the right vibrations. This water is from where Becky DeMilt used to live, on the Beaver Kill Creek, where it crosses Mink Hollow Road, right up here. And Shiv gave me this Indian water ladle, which I'll use. At least symbolically, a few drops from the water ladle. And the rest of the bottle. So now it's dirt from Dr. Brink's grave and water from Becky's creek. Bringing together the mystic powers of the witches and the witch doctors. There we are. So that's it. That's it. That's the act.